Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Namaskaram to all, and welcome to the 13th episode of Shivabodha Malika. Today, we shall look at the form of Parameshwara as Bhikshatana Murti or Bhikshatanar. Bhikshatanam means to roam around asking for alms. That is basically a mendicant. Why did Parameshwara assume this form of a Bhikshatana Murti? Why did he go about asking alms and keep roaming around as a mendicant? The first story is related to the Brahma Shirobheda episode, where one head of Brahma was removed by Parameshwara to quell the arrogance and the pride of Brahma. This Brahma Shiras, because it is Brahma Hatya in a way, the Brahma Shiras sticks to the hand of Parameshwara and he is not able to remove that Brahma Shiras from his hand. In the course of time, that Brahma Shiras turns into a Kapala, into a skull, which is stuck to the hand of Parameshwara. So Parameshwara then realizes that this is indeed a sin, a grave mistake, and there has to be some way of coming out of this. So he goes around taking alms in that Kapala in the hope that at some point of time, when the sin is going away, or when the time for the sin to go away comes, the Kapala will fall off his hand. As he keeps roaming about, there are so many places he goes, but the Kapala doesn't fall off. Parvati feels extremely sorry for the state of Parameshwara, and she herself assumes the form of Annapurna and resides and comes to Kashi, Varanasi. That was the time it is said that Varanasi was going through a severe famine and drought, and there was no food and water for people to eat, and people were dying away. So the Divine Mother assumes the form of Annapurna and comes and starts distributing food to the people of Kashi. It is at that time that Shiva recognizes that there is someone who has come into Kashi who is distributing food, and she is a divine lady. And he goes to Kashi, to Varanasi, and stretches his arm with the Kapala, and Annapurna fills it with rice, and at very moment the Kapala falls away. So this is one story of Shiva as a Bhikshatana Murti because of the sin of having removed the head of Brahma. The other story related to the Bhikshatana form of Parameshwara is related to his appearance at Darukavanam. There were a few sages who were performing penance and tapas at Darukavanam, and over a period of time they had grown proud and arrogant that they were the protectors of Sanatana Dharma and the Vaidika Dharma, and all powers rested with them. So, in order to teach them a lesson and put them on the right path, Parameshwara comes or manifests himself in Darukavanam as a Nagna Murti, as a Bhikshatana Murti. A Bhikshatana, a mendicant in the Nagna form, in a naked form. Seeing the beautiful form of Parameshwara, the wives of the sages get captivated and they start going behind Parameshwara, leaving aside all their duties and responsibilities. This enrages the sages, and without thinking twice, they curse and pronounce various uh, ill words towards Parameshwara. Parameshwara then reveals his true form and disappears immediately. The sages feel extremely sorry for the for the act of theirs, and they ask for repentance, but Parameshwara has disappeared. So they go to Brahma and ask how this Shivaparadham or Shivakopam can be done away with. Brahma is not able to find a solution, and they all start thinking. At that time, Parameshwara, in an asharira, in the form of a voice, states that the sages have to worship me in a formless state because I came in a particular form and they were not able to recognize me. So they are now to worship me only in a formless state. And that formless state takes the shape of a lingam. A lingam is basically a ellipsoidal structure. And the symbolism of a lingam is there is no beginning or end to the lingam. It symbolizes no beginning and no end. It is Ananta. That form of Parameshwara, which is in the formless state, in the form of a lingam, then begins to be worshipped by the sages, and that tradition and the parampara continues. So this is another story behind how Parameshwara came as a Bhikshatana Murti, but then got transformed into that of a lingam or that of a linga. So these are the forms, or these are the stories behind Parameshwara as Bhikshatana Murti. At this point of time, I would also like to mention that Bhikshatanam, that is taking alms, taking Bhiksha, is considered as one of the dharmas in Sanatana Dharma. This dharma primarily applies to brahmacharis and sannyasis. Among the four ashramas, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa, brahmacharis and sannyasis are primarily given this dharma of bhiksha because their duty in society, the duty of the brahmachari is to study. It is a student life. And he is in the Gurukula, he or she is in the Gurukula. And in the Gurukula, there is no earning, that the teacher is not asking fees or tuition amount from the students. He is sharing his knowledge with the students, with the Shishyas, and taking care of their needs as well. So it becomes the duty of the king of the place to take care of the Gurukula, the Guru and the Shishya. And the food for the daily consumption is brought by the brahmacharis by taking bhiksha from various houses. They gather all the food and it is cooked in the Gurukula and shared and eaten. This was the parampara. From where do they take bhiksha? From the grihasthas. So the grihastha is ordered, is commanded that he must give bhiksha every day to the brahmacharis who come and to the sannyasis who come to his house. So that is one of the dharmas of grihastha, to give bhiksha, and the dharma of the sannyasi and the brahmachari to take bhiksha. There are other aspects of bhiksha which are also there for the grihastha. A grihastha who has reached that level of spiritual maturity and development and is no more interested in the ways of the world. There are various aspects of bhiksha which are known as unchavritti. Unchavritti is basically about going round the town or the village with a pot in the hand, singing the praise of the Lord, singing the names of Parameshwara, and people will give food, vegetables, whatever they have will be poured into the pot. And the moment the pot is full, you're supposed to return back. You stop the unchavritti and you return back home, because that is all for today. Whatever you need for you and your family is already gathered, and that is what you eat. You never store it for the next day. The next day again you do the unchavritti. The unchavritti, the symbolism behind unchavritti is not just about the spiritual development and they are no more interested in the ways of life. It is also a method, a technique to to put down your arrogance and pride, that I have everything, I will not go and stretch my arms in front of the other person. So it brings that kind of humility, that kind of modesty, and it quells your arrogance and pride. This is especially suited for them who are on the path of spiritual development. That is why you have the very close examples of Mahatmas like Tyagaraja Swami who did Unchavritti, who had dedicated their life entirely at the feet of the Lord. There is another form of bhiksha called as Shilauncha Vritti. That is not bhiksha in necessarily, but it's another aspect or another form of Uncha Vritti, Shilauncha Vritti. Shilauncha Vritti is also recommended for the Grihasthas, but Grihasthas who are not interested in going around the houses and taking the food, the way they do it is they roam around the fields and the farms, and whatever grains have been taken away by the farmer, the rest that has been spilled around, even those grains are eaten by the rodents and the birds and everything. So that is also allowed. What is left over after everybody has had their share, that is collected and that is eaten. That is Shilam Chavriti. Even in the form of fruits and other things from the trees, whatever the birds and animals have to eat, and what is left over, not wanted by anybody, that is collected and that is eaten. That is Shilam Chavriti. So these are all various ways in which Sanatana Dharma harmonized the society and ensured that there is mutual dependence and there is mutual affection and love among the various uh, levels and aspects of the society. So, in this form of Bhikshatana Murti, Shiva in a way represents all these tattvas of that of Bhiksha, of that of a mendicant, and asking for alms. Now, if you look at the form of Parameshwara as Bhikshatana Murti, this is the form that you typically see. You find a lot of similarity between this form and that of Bhairava. The form of Shiva is Bhairava. In a way, in many literature, they say that it is a form of Bhairava, but in the Saumya, in a very calm state, but not as Ugra Bhairava, as a calm form. So that is why you will find also the dog, which is close to Parameshwara, which is typically associated with Bhairava. So he's represented as an Agnamurti, but in many shilas and sculptures, you will find some kind of a robe, some sort of a cloth that is covering Parameshwara. So this is the typical form of Bhikshatana Murti that you find in the different temples and sculptures. So this is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this session. Next week, we shall come with another aspect of Parameshwara. Until then, do keep watching the sessions on Subbu's Corner. Do like, subscribe, and also share with interested people. Until we meet next week, Namaskar.